Good morning and welcome to Read Becca. So remember when I said I really wanted to read my own books and was super committed to that? Not so much. So I was finally able to get out and go to the library as a result of getting my second shot and the library just reopening a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I was very restrained, I think. I actually didn't even make it past the new release and sci-fi shelves, but I have much more than I can actually read here. My library works in a system where you get 2 weeks to read your checkouts, and then you get up to 5 renewals, and they will auto renew if they don't have any holds. So I may or may not be able to get through these. This should be a pretty good snapshot of the kind of books that I reach for when I go to the library. Most of these are very recent, like within the last year and a half type releases. So yeah, I got a little bit more than I can get through for sure, but they're all very exciting, so I'm looking to jump into them very quickly. So what I picked up at the library is beginning with Network Effect by Martha Wells. This is the first full-length novel in the Murderbot series. If you don't know what Murderbot is, I don't know where you've been. It's basically a far future sci-fi with a AI protagonist who is a security bot, and that security bot has hacked themselves so that they don't have to follow the rules, basically. But instead of kind of going wild, they just want to sit and watch their shows. So very jaded and antisocial protagonist that I think is the character everyone relates to. So in the second novella, there was a character introduced that is probably my favorite after Murderbot. And as far as I understand, that character comes back in this book. So I'm really looking forward to see that character again here. And I want to get caught up because now, I think just this month, the 6th entry in this series has actually come out. So I'm now behind. Next is another awesome sci-fi sequel. So The Relentless Moon. This is the 3rd in the Lady Astronaut series, and as far as I understand, this actually has a new protagonist, so it's not sequential. It kind of takes place alongside the other novels, and this series is an alternate history wherein there is a great catastrophic event at the beginning, and it sets off the space race a little bit early and more internationally cooperative. So we follow kind of women pilots and computers, not human computers, not computer electronics, who want to get into the astronaut program in order to drive going to Mars. So I think this is one of my favorite recent series as well, just like Murderbot. I have 5-starred all of them, so actually both of these are 5-star predictions for me. So I'm really looking forward to get into this and see how I like the new character. I actually did see a live event with Mary Robinette Kowal where she did the first half of the interview as Nicole Worgan, the protagonist of this book. So if I can find that, I will link it down below because it was really entertaining. This book has been making the rounds, and it's not my usual thing, but Hench by Natalie Zina Walschots is, I believe, a debut, and this is kind of superhero sci-fi, but what has really intrigued me about this one is that the protagonist is kind of doing the admin work for crime bosses, and in that job she gets caught in the crossfire basically between the criminals and the superheroes. And so I don't know too much other than that, but I have heard that it involves maybe some data science and data analytics, and that sounds very intriguing to me. I think that this one is going to be queer, and I know the author is really involved in, even though this is, I believe, the first novel, game storytelling. So that could be really interesting to see how that translates over into this work. And next up, Master of Poisons by Andrea Hairston. This is an author I've only read kind of shorter work from before, and this is a big, chunky, epic fantasy set with African folklore. So this one, let me actually read, because I think it's a complex one. The world is changing. Poison desert eats good farmland. Once sweet water turns foul. The wind blows sand and sadness across the empire. To get caught in a storm is death. To live and do nothing is death. There is magic in the world, but good conjure is hard to find. Jola, right-hand man and spy master of the Lord of the Archesian Empire, is desperately trying to save his adopted homeland, even in exile. Awa, a young woman training to be a powerful griot, tests the limits of her knowledge and comes into her own in a world of sorcery, floating cities, kindly beasts, and uncertain men. So it sounds really intriguing. Back when this came out, I was doing like a new release spotlight, and regularly, like a monthly, and it was on my list of ones that I really wanted to get to. So this is actually on my 2021 yearly TBR, because I have wanted to get to it since it came out and I have just not picked it up. So gonna get to this one. And then finally I've got a nonfiction. So I have Is Rape a Crime by Michelle Bowdler. And this one should be a very difficult read. It's kind of a slim volume. I was expecting it to be a bit chunkier, but essentially, as I understand, this is a memoir of the author's own experience of going through a rape, and then kind of finding that she wasn't really getting justice, and discovering the problem of the rape kit backlogs in most states in the US. And so it is both the personal memoir and then some investigative journalism into that story. So I'm really interested to get into this one. And I think it's a fairly new release. I think this one just came out last year. So that is what I grabbed from the library. I doubt I will get through all of it, unfortunately, but I'm going to sure make a try. And like I said, I think with the library reopening and me being able to go back, I'm just going to wallow in the joy of that. So I don't think I will be kind of beating myself up at all if I don't get to stuff on my own shelves right now. I'm going to, I think, make June a go wild month of just reading whatever I want to from the library. So onward to what I actually read and am currently reading for this week. So the couple things that I did read are on my Kindle, and both of those are actually YA contemporaries. So the first of those was actually Can't Take That Away by Stephen Salvatore, and it is a hard-hitting, I think, YA contemporary from a genderqueer author about a genderqueer protagonist who has always wanted to be in a Broadway play, but they stopped singing because they have some pretty severe anxiety that they're working through. And they actually have kind of befriended someone who's encouraging them to go out for the play. They have a gay teacher who's always been really supportive of their identity and has also encouraged them to go out for an upcoming play at school. But they're also facing some pretty severe bullying from other students that is making them kind of question that. And so this is all about that aspect, both going out for the play, kind of finding your voice very much, as well as we have a young relationship, kind of first crush, first love, that balances those really hard-hitting elements so well with the kind of softer side. So it still has that fluffy YA contemporary element to it. But when the role is actually cast, there is some homophobia in the staff that actually creates a major problem. And we see it throughout the book multiple times, not just to do with this play. And eventually this turns into very much a protest novel where the students are deciding to speak up for themselves and say discrimination is not acceptable. So not only does it include that in a pretty good depth in the actual story, but at the back there is actually a guideline set out about going into a protest situation. So yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I think there was so much to love about the characters. The one element that was really unique that made me want to pick this up is that the actual chapter headers have pronouns specified, because we are going from a single POV, but that person's pronouns change from time to time. So while they default to they, them, that changes. And then at the beginning of the book as well, their teacher, who is a real advocate for them, has actually helped them out by finding about these pronoun bracelets that they can wear so that they can signal to others what pronoun to use for them. So I thought that was really fantastic representation. I thought all of the found family friendships in this were so good. It was both very informational and hard-hitting, as well as soft and fluffy. So really enjoyed that one. The next one was Tiny Pretty Things, and that is a kind of a YA dramatic ballet thriller. And it was kind of what you would expect. So there is a TV adaptation out for it. And I mean, I think I probably underestimated it. I should have known better, coming from Dhonielle Clayton is one of the authors. And then I haven't read anything from Sona Chaipotra, the co-author, yet, but they did such a great job. I think that, again, it was very hard-hitting. It really, really is very focused on racism in the ballet world. So two of the protagonists are people of color. We have Gigi, who is African American, and then we have June, or Ijun, who is Asian, and they both are facing racism from different sides. We get things like in June's culture, all of the kind of Korean and Asian girls stick together, but they're so driven by their parents to be competitive that there's a lot of behind the scenes backstabbing. There is also a really interesting element with the guys. So there is this expectation set about body types, and that affects all of these characters very much. The guys, though, there is an expectation of masculinity that is kind of harmful to the straight guys, but then we also have the expectation put on either the more femme or even gay guys, where they're just meant to live up to this harsh male standard, and it really affects them and their body image. And so body image is huge throughout this. There is a lot of disordered eating. So definitely big time warnings for that. I think that's true of most ballet novels, but there are, weigh-ins and things like that. And in this case, it's almost that the school having enforcement for not getting too low of a body weight is damaging to them in some ways, because they're constantly under scrutiny of, the teachers wanting them to appear a certain way, but then them having to live up to also a certain minimum standard as well. They're constantly walking a fine line. So that was just incredibly well done. The characters were great. But then it was also very much just a teen drama. All the relationships, I mean, you can imagine even high school stories are like that, but these kids are all living together basically, and together all day long. And they're all competing with one another and posturing for position in roles. So there's some very extreme stuff that goes on in terms of bullying and competition. So both of the books had very strong bullying themes that I finished this week. And it deviated from the adaptation quite a bit in what the actual end outcome was. So if you have seen the adaptation, you might still very much want to check out the book. So I really enjoyed this as well. I think both of those were probably 4-star reads for me. So next up, I have, on audio actually, I'm reading Lirael by Garth Nix. This is the second, I think, Abhorsen or Old Kingdom book. And I had completely forgotten that the audio is all narrated by Tim Curry. So it is an absolute delight. Like, I'm loving it so much. So I think I was planning on mixing reading it in print and doing audio, but I think I'm going to listen to the audio for the whole thing and just pick up the print book and read along with the audio if I want to do that, rather than just reading in print, because the narration is so good. So this one jumps to kind of after Sabriel quite a bit, and we're following this character Lirael, who is meant to have a magical awakening basically, but it's years late and she still hasn't. So she is about to jump off of a roof basically, when something happens, and there is a new path for her basically. So I'm not too far in. I think I'm like 10% in, and this is a really chunky book, but I'm reading this for bingo and I'm really liking it, so I'm glad I picked it up finally. And then on print, I started my BookTube spin read, Women Talking by Miriam Toews. This is a reread for me, but I absolutely love this book. It's so good. I'm already like a third of the way in, and I just started it yesterday. I was planning on not putting too much time toward it, just reading it like a chapter at a time, but it's so great. I don't want to put it down. So I'm really enjoying this one, and I will do a full review of it, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but this is basically about women who are in a Mennonite colony, and it was uncovered that they were being drugged and raped over a period of years, and so they're dealing with the fallout of that. But this is just a conversation between those women in a barn after the men have all left to go actually bail out the perpetrators, and they're deciding what they want to do about the situation. So really phenomenally well written book. So that's it for books. It's a lot. I also picked up Komi Can't Communicate, a manga, which is really cute so far. I've only got the first volume from the library, and it's all about, it says a communication disorder, but I think really it's an anxiety disorder is what we would call it. So Komi is starting at a new school, and she freezes up and can't talk whenever anybody's around. So this guy understands that that's what was going on, and he starts trying to help her to communicate with people is basically what it is. It's very silly but very adorable, I think. And then I think I watched Shadow and Bone within the past couple weeks. I had every intention, as the good reader that I am, to read the books first, and I did not hold out at all. So I actually really enjoyed it. I was very surprised. So I was kind of on the fence about really reading the books, because I think everyone has heard mixed things about the writing of the first couple books. And if you don't know what Shadow and Bone is, and you're this deep into BookTube, I don't think I need to explain it to you, but it's kind of high fantasy interconnected series. But I have read Language of Thorns, which is a set of folk tales from the world, and really enjoyed it and thought the writing was good. So I kind of knew that the writing that she's done is going to improve, and I was planning on picking up Six of Crows, and then the show is coming out, so I was like, maybe I will pick those up. Well, I didn't hold out, and I watched the whole thing, and I think it was great. Like, I had similar feelings with Witcher, and don't really feel too drawn to pick up those books, but I loved this. I thought it was great. I liked it quite a bit more than the Witcher series, the show, and so I think I definitely do want to pick up the books and just read through them, I think it'll be fun. So I think that decided me. So if you're on the fence and not sure whether you want to do the series or the books, definitely try out the series. It was very entertaining, very well made. So other than that, I also started watching another show that is new. I think it's from Freeform, Cruel Summer. And I am a sucker for really innovative storytelling. And it is not speculative at all. It's a thriller. It's like a teenager thriller. So it's all about these two girls, and the perspectives alternate between episodes. But what's so cool about it is that it takes the the story narrative and breaks it down by the same day on 3 consecutive years. So there's kind of a before, during, and after, really, to the storytelling. And then it runs through alternating those timelines all through the episode. And I think the first one, we started with the girl who's kind of, she starts as the nerd and then becomes viewed as the antagonist. And then the next episode is the popular girl who kind of is the victim, basically. And it's really, really cool how they've played that out and been able to really layer the storytelling. I think the only thing I don't like about it is that each year they darken the tone of the actual coloring of the film. So I think that wasn't really necessary. They also did like different hairstyles, so you can pretty much tell which time it is, but I'm enjoying that one a lot. So other than that, what else is going on? Not a whole lot. It's been a really hectic week, but I did get the great news along with the library opening. Now my favorite book sale has been scheduled for this fall. Super excited. It's like a giant gymnasium sale where the whole thing is filled with tables. So usually I wind up with like 30 or 40 books from that one because it's several days long and there's thousands and thousands of books. So on top of that, I've been trying for months, like literally like 4 or 5 months, to get some IKEA bookshelves, some of the narrow, tall, extra tall Billy bookshelves, and I just can't get them for some reason. I've tried, multiple types. I've tried getting them separately with extenders, can't get them. But I finally was able to get in an order last week, and so those are going to be delivered next week. So you can't see, but straight across from me I have what I consider my junk bookshelves that are just kind of really lightweight bookshelves. They're really easy to move, and they're narrow and tall. So I think I'm going to replace those with my nice Billy bookshelves, and the Billies will be kind of dark wood like these are, where the junk bookshelves are kind of light bamboo-y stuff. So they'll actually kind of match. And then the junk bookshelves will go downstairs. But these are going to be the extra tall ones that are like 92 inches tall. So they'll go almost right up to my ceiling in here. And I will have so much extra space for books so that I can go and get a whole bunch at the book sale. So that is all very exciting. So I think that's it for me. I rambled a lot here. Yeah, let me know if you've read any of those books. I think they're pretty popular that I picked up from the library, so hopefully some people have. But yeah, let me know what you thought about those and which one you think I should pick up first, because I'm going to be definitely diving into those this week. Thank you so much for catching up with me today. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.